evening. Welcome to our 2020 Election Forum series organized by Florida Today, the League of Women Voters of the Space Coast, and Eastern Florida State College. Tonight, we're hosting our second forum of this election cycle. It features the candidates running for Brevard County Commission District 3. It covers Southern Brevard, including parts of Palm Bay and Melbourne. I am Isadora Rangel. I will be your host this evening, and I'm Florida Today's engagement editor. And tonight, you're going to meet three candidates. They are the incumbent, John Tabaya, and Melbourne Mayor Kathy Meehan. They're both Republicans, and they're running in the August 18th primary elections. How are you? How are you doing?
Well, thank you.
As you can tell, Mayor Meehan had some technical difficulties, so her video is not working tonight, but we can certainly hear her voice. So the winner of that Republican primary will be facing Democrat Sanjay Patel, who is also present with us this evening. How are you, Mr. Patel?
Very good. Thank you so much.
And obviously, as you can tell, this forum is happening virtually, and that's obviously because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So without further ado, let's begin with first introducing our rules. The candidates will have a minute and 15 seconds to answer my questions, and they also get a 30-second rebuttal if one of their opponents brings them up. So let's begin with our opening statements. And Commissioner Tabaya, I'm going to ask you to go first and introduce yourself.
Thank you. My name is John Tabaya, and for 4 years, I've been a conservative voice on the county commission. I've never voted for a tax increase, and I certainly won't if elected. I'm running for Ellie, Ivan, Nora, and May, my three nieces and wonderful nephew. I want them to grow up in the wonderful Brevard County that I did 30 years ago. Thank you for putting on this forum, and I look forward to a lively discussion.
Thank you. And Mayor Meehan, you're next.
All right, thank you. I'm Kathy Meehan, and I'm running for County Commission District 3. I'm married to my best friend Dennis for 36 years, and we have 2 children. I manage a successful family-owned business, Meehan's Office and Art Products, in downtown Melbourne. The business has been in the community since 1921. The Meehans are a pioneer family that came to Melbourne in 1877, and we are a 7-generation family. And my top priorities are support home rule, and I support Indian River Lagoon, support public safety, support roads and water infrastructure, support economic development. I have the dedication, hard work, and experience to represent all citizens of District 3. I would be honored to earn your vote. Vote for Kathy Meehan on August 18th. And visit my website, KathyMeehan2020.com, for more information. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Patel.
Thanks so much, Isadora, Florida Today, the League of Women Voters, and Eastern Florida State College for hosting us on this forum tonight. As your county commissioner, I'll be focused on building a community where all of our residents, our small businesses, and our natural environment can thrive. Right now, that starts by prioritizing the public health and economic recovery from the COVID-19 crisis. After that, it also means fostering smart growth while protecting our lagoon, making sure that we've got affordable housing and public transportation options, supporting our vibrant community of local small businesses, and proactively planning for sustainable infrastructure improvements. My candidacy represents a truly fresh perspective and a departure from the good old boys network that has permeated our local government for far too long. They've only served the wealthy and the well-connected insiders. I want to make sure that the majority of Brevard has real representation on the commission. If you believe it's time for civility, courage, compassion, and common sense on the Brevard County Commission, I hope that I earn your support and your vote on November 3rd. Thanks so much.
Thank you. So let's begin with our first question. Since the country's greatest challenges, what is your assessment of how the county commission has dealt with this issue? And Mayor Meehan, you're going first on this one. And by the way, for those who just joined, Mayor Meehan had some issues with her equipment, so that's why you cannot see her video. I've seen some questions on Facebook regarding that. But Mayor, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I'm definitely in support of encouraging wearing the mask especially in the city of Melbourne, but in the county. And follow the CDC guidelines. Wash your hands, do social distancing. And there are businesses that are posting on the front of their doors whether they want it mandatory or just encourage. So that's my stand.
And could you describe just a little more how do you think the county commission has dealt with the pandemic?
I'm in agreement with the county commission on making it not mandatory, but encouraging.
Great. Mr. Patel, you're next.
So frankly, I'm embarrassed by our response, all the way from the state down to our county commission. You know, we're the global epicenter for the COVID-19 crisis right now. We have the most number of cases. I think we had almost 14,000 today. The county commission, they received $105 million in CARES Act funding back in March. So far, they've allocated about $4.4 million to individuals and about $10 million to small businesses. So 4% to individuals and 10% to local small businesses. I don't believe the application for the small businesses is even available yet. Let's look at Orange County, for example. They're actually allocating $72.9 million towards individuals and $72.9 million towards small businesses. So 30% each to individuals as well as small businesses. I think it's shameful that we're holding on to that money. We need to get it into the hands of the families and the businesses that need it right now. It's what's actually harming our economy right now. We need to get that money directly into their hands so it enters our economy so that we can kickstart our economy again. Our commission has failed with the urgency to protect public health as well. I went to that mask proposal meeting, and they had individuals that ignored science and the data that said one of the best ways we can flatten the curve is to say that we're going to mandate mask coverings in the county. And
your time is up. Sorry. And the question again is assess how the county commission has responded to the COVID-19 pandemic. And Commissioner Tabaya, you're next.
Thank you. I think we've certainly had some successes and failures. As this started, before we even dealt with the CARES money, I proposed and the commission adopted a small business relief program that would put business licenses on hold until this crisis came to a halt. We've actually allocated a little bit more than with what Mr. Patel mentioned, $4 million to individuals, which, by the way, I did not support. $4 million in direct aid to food programs so we could help those most needy. I certainly did support that. But I think what we need to remember, this $100 million does not exist. It's borrowed from China. And I don't believe that we need to hand out other people's money. This is our grandkids' money, and we start throwing money at businesses and charities, many that have some dubious backgrounds, some that are even listed on the Southern Poverty Law Center's hate groups. So if we were to send this money to those type of organizations, as a majority of the county commission supported, I think it would be going in the wrong direction. I think we need to send this back to Washington, D.C.
And by the way, just very quickly, you mentioned charities that were considered by the Southern Law Poverty Center as hate groups. Do you know the names of those organizations?
There's one based in Viera, Florida.
What's the name of it?
ACT.
Okay. All right. So both of you brought up the CARES Act, but I want us to dig a little deeper into that. And I haven't heard Mayor Meehan's thoughts yet. So the question is, the county has allocated, as you said, more than $100 million it received from the CARES Act. And according to our reporting here at Florida Today, among those expenditures were $10 million for grants up to $10,000 apiece to small businesses, more than $4 million to grants for individuals who are financially hurt. And also there was money for food pantries, food banks, and other entities that get food for people who are hurt financially by the pandemic. How would you change how that money was spent if you would change it all? If you had the chance to do what you wish with that money, do you think, what changes would you make? And Mr. Patel, you're going first.
So, as I said previously, we need to get that money into the hands of individuals and families. Over the past couple of months, I can't tell you how much I've been doing a lot of mutual aid work. What that means is trying to support folks in the community that are really struggling right now. I cannot tell you how many families are terrified about how they're going to put food on their table for their children or how they're going to pay for that next bill. And they need that direct aid. The application process is really cumbersome. I know one individual who, it was 70 pages. She had to go buy printer ink to get that, to print all the documentation she needed to apply for it, and she ended up getting denied anyways. As I mentioned, the small business application doesn't even exist yet. So we're holding on to this money. I just have a different philosophy than John. I believe that this money is here and will actually kickstart our economy. They're not going to just hold on to it. They will pay their bills. They're going to buy food. That money gets circulated into our economy and is what's necessary to jumpstart it. So I would love to see all 105 million actually allocated and put into the places that require it, and let's go from there. We may need more.
Thank you. Commissioner Tobias, you're next.
Thank you. It was predicted that we have a busy hurricane season coming forward, and that will require extra money to separate people under CDC guidelines. So we need to make sure that we retain some of these funds if there is a government emergency that we need to deal with. What some members of the county commission, and it seems like one of my opponents here, would like to take this money in a helicopter and drop it and get it in the economy. I don't think that's the right way to go. The Treasury has been very specific that if we use this in the wrong way, the county will be liable to reimburse the federal government for those millions of dollars. I certainly don't want to put future commissions on the hook for misspending those dollars. So I think the best thing that we can do is hold them, and should we not need them, return them to the federal government, because our job as a government is to create a level playing field. It's not to keep businesses in business. It's not to give direct handouts of money to individuals. It's create a fair and equal and help those that are in most need. And I think we've done that.
Thank you. Mayor Meehan, and again, the question is, do you agree with how the county has spent its share of the CARES Act, and if you would do anything differently with that money?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with the distribution of the CARES Act, especially for residents in Brevard County. They are hurting. They need this money right now to pay for rent, electric, and so forth. If I had to do, I would like to increase the business money. That's $10 million. I like to see it being $20 million. And that has a ripple effect in our community because it helps our employees who need jobs right now, and they're hurting. So as far as I know, according to the president of the Melbourne Regional Chamber, he stated this morning that the details are still being worked out to the all four chambers to see how they can get going on this. So I think it's really important to do it now, expedite it. That's what I'm saying. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think at least two of you brought up the economy and jobs. And I want to hear from you. What is a commissioner's role in creating jobs in an area? And more specifically, I want you to discuss how would you go about doing that and bringing more jobs to the area? Commissioner Tobias, you're going first.
Thank you. The County Commission has contracted with the Economic Development Commission to the tune of about $1.4 million in order to incentivize businesses to come. That is an administrative fee. On top of that, we offer breaks on taxes. I think this is absolutely the wrong way to go. What government is doing is picking winners and losers, and government should not be in the place to pick winners and losers. It should be a market. What we should do is make sure our infrastructure is good. We should make sure our taxes are low and businesses can thrive in our economy. We certainly shouldn't be picking one business over another. We just handed $3 million to Walmart to build a distribution facility in Brevard County. Don't get me wrong. I certainly want a distribution center in Brevard County, but to take $3 million from money that could go to roads, that could go to public safety, to bring in Walmart that needs to be here more than we need them, I think is the wrong direction to go. So I want a level playing field. I want to stop these government handouts.
Mayor, you're next.
Yes, I definitely support the Economic Development Commission, and Glenn Weatherman is doing an excellent job in recruiting businesses in our community, and kind of, especially in Briere, Northrop Grumman, their expansion. There are a lot of companies that are coming to Brevard, and we have a great pool of employees, engineers here, and so I don't think we are picking winners and losers. We need more companies to come to Brevard.
Thank you. Mr. Patel.
I think the best way we can bring business to Brevard is by improving our quality of life. When we look at our failing infrastructure, or the fact that we've got low-paying jobs, where we have folks that are struggling, there are certain parts of our community where the Child Opportunity Index is 2 out of 100. So to bring quality businesses and folks moving into this area, we have to improve our quality of life. And that starts by providing good quality infrastructure and things that attract folks here. You know, if we have a dying lagoon, or we've got failing roads, or we don't have good schools, you know, folks will not want to relocate here. The other thing I want to touch on is with the EDC, you know, it's on a case-by-case basis. We should incentivize certain businesses to come here if they're going to get, if Brevard is going to get a good ROI on that investment, on that incentive. Are we going to see good paying jobs, not low-paying, low-skilled jobs in this area? Are we going to make sure that they have some skin in the game, where they're going to do some smart growth? They're going to provide some green space or additional infrastructure as part of their move to the county. I don't think we can just give out incentives to every company, but it needs to make sure that we get a good ROI, and we got to focus on local small businesses, because large corporations, they're sending that money to shareholders outside, and local businesses will put that money in the economy here.
Thank you. So moving on, my next question is, and I usually get some really good stuff when I ask this to candidates, and the question is very simple. Can you say why voters should elect you instead of your opponents? And Mayor Meehan, you're going first.
Okay, thank you. Because I have a strong sense of community. I've been out there, and I definitely work with people, and I'm very hardworking, and I have that same attitude that I'll present in District 3.
Mr. Patel.
So I ran for Congress 2 years ago, and it became really clear that many of the issues that most directly impact our community are being ignored while a small group of local political insiders made decisions in their own best interest and in the interest of their lobbyists and their cronies, their political allies. Many people don't understand the role of the commission and how much they are impacted by the decisions that they make. In the midst of a rising pandemic, just for an example, they failed to mandate or adopt a mandatory mask policy. You know, we have folks struggling to get unemployment and feed their kids, and they've so far managed to put a few $100,000 out of the $105 million that they got out of the CARES Act funding from the government. You know, I'm running for county commission to make sure that there's a voice in our local government that actually represents the people of Brevard. I aim to make sure that there's a good man, not another good old boy on the Brevard County Commission.
Thank you. And the question again is, can you say why voters should elect you instead of your opponents? And Commissioner Tobia, you're going next.
Thanks. You know, this is a democracy, and all of us provide apparently very different philosophies. I'll tell you what my philosophy is, and if that matches you, I certainly would like your vote. I haven't voted for a tax increase. I know I've said this before. I'm going to continue saying that. You know that should you reelect me up there, that I will be the voice that says that tax increases, whether they come from certain constitutional officers or whether they come from other commissioners, the answer is going to be no. You need someone up there on the commission that is willing to look people in the face and tell them, no, we just don't have the resources to do that. We need to prioritize public safety. We need to prioritize infrastructure. And while a new park with a wonderful playground would be a great addition to Brevard County, it comes at the sacrifice of something else. And it's extremely difficult to get up there and say no. And unfortunately, some of my commissioners say yes because they're good people. Unfortunately, their conservative philosophy lacks a little. So if you want some conservative, I'm the guy. And if not, there's two other viable options up here.
Thank you. And the next question is about compromise. And a lot of people say that politics is the art of compromise. I would like for you to give me specific examples in your political or professional career when you showed your ability to work with peers you disagreed with and reach a compromise? And again, the more specific you can get, the better. And Mr. Patel, you're going first.
So my leadership style, the way I work with folks, is I can define it by solidarity. What I mean by that is I stand with the people. I listen to them. I make sure that I understand their needs and their concerns, and I take that input, and then I'm a fierce advocate for them. You can see the work that I've done in this community for quite a few years now. When I work with folks that don't have the same political ideology as me, so I'm a Democrat, and there's a lot of Republicans. The commission actually has 5 Republicans that seem to want to out-Republican one another. A great example is the commission meeting prior, where Commissioner Lober proposed the mandatory mask mandate. After all of the insults that have been hurled against my wife by him, if I can state that he was right about it and that I was going to go to bat, and you can absolutely guarantee that I would have voted for it, you can tell that I'm going to serve the best interests of our community and of Brevard. It's not about politics; it's about doing the right thing, and I'm able to do that.
Thank you, Commissioner Tabaya, on compromise.
Thank you. Compromise is a little bit difficult on my end. I have trouble compromising principles, but I will give some examples where a number of the commissioners agreed with me, and we were able to pass some meaningful legislation with, if not unanimous, almost unanimous votes. We passed E-Verify in Brevard County. Now any business that has commerce with Brevard County must be E-Verify certified, and I'm very proud of that. We declared that Brevard County would not be a sanctuary county to people who were here illegally. We got rid of local preference in contracting, thus lowering the price that we pay for goods and services here in Brevard County. We were able to do away with the dreaded Palm Shores CRA, run by an individual who was more interested in punctuating her name than the good of the community. We were able to deal with solar permitting. My office took away the cost to put solar on your house. So we've had some meaningful compromise out of my office.
Thank you. And a question for, again, for those who are just joining us is, can you give examples of when you were able to compromise with people you disagree with? And Mayor Meehan, you're going next.
All right, thank you. A prime example is, of course, I support the CRA, the community redevelopment, and one of them is the Babcock Street CRA. And the county portion, which was the worst road, it's almost like rumble strip all the way down. I met with Commissioner Kurt Smith and his staff, and along with my city manager, and we sat down in the meeting, and what are we going to do to work together to get this road constructed? And sure enough, we did. We put in, City of Melbourne, $1.3 million. The county put in $500,000, and we were able to pave that road. But it took us to work together, and that's what it's all about. And that's what my philosophy is. Let's get it done, and we did.
Thank you. And I think the topic of ideology was brought up. I would like for you to describe your political ideology, but also say how much your ideology should guide a county commissioner's decision. Is there times where ideologies should be left aside in order to do what you believe is best for the county? And Commissioner Tabaya, you're going first.
Thank you. I'd have to say that I'm a Barry Goldwater conservative. The conservative philosophy guides every decision I make. Citizens have other things instead of just sit around and watch every county commission meeting. So they put a trust in their elected officials. And it's disappointing, or certainly was disappointing when I was not an elected official, to watch the people that I entrusted to go back and forth. And so I offer consistency. And that happens to be extremely conservative. Makes some people very happy, disappoints other people, but that's what makes for a great democratic system that we have. Mayor
Meehan, you're next.
Oh, yeah, thank you. I look at each item on the agenda, and I take pride in making sure that I reach out to folks. I listen to both sides of the issue and make the best decision I can make. I enjoy working with people and speaking with them on the phone or having meetings with them. So I really enjoy it. I did that as mayor of Melbourne, and of course I'm still mayor till November. But I really enjoy just let's get things done and let's do it in a productive way.
Thank you, Mr. Patel. Again, the question is, what is your political ideology, and how much does your ideology would influence your decisions as a county commissioner?
So I'm a progressive. What that means to me is that the power of the people is stronger than the people in power. We have to make sure that our government is made up of the people and actually truly represents the people, not special interests, not lobbyists, not their corporate donors or their lobbyists that try to garner favors from them. It means we take care of our constituents. We make sure that they're paid fair wages, that they can take care of their families, that they can thrive, their families can thrive in a place like this. For far too long, we've seen systems, both economic, political, environmental, that have caused a lot of damage to folks. We're seeing the largest wealth inequality that we've ever experienced in this country. So as a progressive, I want to make sure that we're leveling the playing field and making sure that all people have an opportunity to truly thrive, that they can actually take care of their families and themselves. That means taking care of the environment. That means taking care of themselves, making sure that we're looking out for folks. And when folks are struggling, we give them a hand up and we help them. We don't shirk our responsibility or say, pick yourself up by the bootstraps. So that's my ideology, and that will definitely play a role in decisions I make on the commission.
Great. So let's move on to a very important local topic, and that is the Indian River Lagoon and the environment. The question is, as a county commissioner, how would you work to continue improving the health of the lagoon and address other environmental issues in Brevard County? And Mayor, you're going first.
All right, thank you. Definitely through that state, our Indian partner with our and other community partners. Definitely, I support the septic to sewer conversions, vegetative harvesting, definitely dredging. One example is the O'Dalley River. We did a phase 1 project with the demunking, and that certainly has improved the area, and I really believe that will help us in the future. So I definitely want to support more projects, and I know that City of Melbourne has built the biggest baffle box south of Mississippi in US 1. So we are committed, and I will continue that with Brevard County.
Thank you. And Mr. Patel, you're going next.
So I'm a big supporter of the Save Our Indian River Lagoon plan and the initiatives that they've undertaken. I actually went to a Trump rally to get signatures to get that passed in 2016. When I take office, the reality is that we'll probably be almost halfway through the funding that's coming. That was a 10-year plan. We have to continue all the projects that the scientists and the experts have outlined and make sure that we're getting those projects done expeditiously. So septic to sewer conversion, making sure that we've got baffle boxes, growing seagrass, oyster beds. There's a number of initiatives there. What we really need to talk about in addition to that is resiliency, right? We're facing climate change, sea level rise. What does that look like for Brevard 20 years from now? Some models have up to 2 feet in sea level rise coming here by 2040. That's only 20 years from now. So we really need to take action now to address this. Are we gonna keep continuing beach nourishment where we've got places that keep continuously getting flooding? Are we gonna have to move infrastructure away from the water more inland? These are really challenging topics, but we have to start addressing them now because it's not like we can get to 2039 and say, hey, in the budget next year, let's remove this. We're already facing the challenge of climate change at that point. So there's a lot we have to do,
Thank
know-
you, Mr. Patel. Your time is up. Thank you. Commissioner Tabaya, again, the question is about the lagoon and what have you done as a commissioner and what do you plan to do to address the issues that we're faced with?
Thanks. I've worked pretty closely with Save Our Indian River Lagoon Citizens Oversight Committee. We haven't always agreed, but we have come to an understanding that we need to remove as much phosphorus and nitrogen as possible with the fewest amount of dollars. And we've spent or allocated more than $120 million to septic to sewer. We have gone above that and put a moratorium on biosolids. People that put human waste, which on the ground to increase plant growth. We've stopped any further continuation of that. But we've taken steps that will help the environment and help the lagoon. My office came with legislation that not only created tiny homes, but regulated to make sure that they were built in a fair way that would be sustainable when it came to our hurricane-prone areas. So this is a larger issue than just the lagoon. It's the environment, and our office created the WISER, which is the Work Group for Innovative Solar Energy Resources.
Thank you. And the next topic, still about the lagoon, but this one is about septic tanks. Do you support new developments in Brevard County that have conventional septic systems, or do you think there should be a requirement for all new developments to have upgraded septic systems or sewer line hookups? And Mr. Patel, you're going first.
I think we should mandate that all development have upgraded septic tanks. We know that, especially the development that is nearby any body of water, we're seeing the effects of that, the nutrients that keep getting leached into the waterways. I think we need to take a stand and say, look, we know that septic tanks leak into the ground. They get to our groundwater. We don't really have a full understanding. Once we get more inland, there's some challenges there where some of those nutrients can find their ways into waterways. I think that we need to have the courage to say, look, if we're going to have new development, we're going to mandate that we have upgraded septic tanks just across the board. And we should make sure that developers are footing the bill, not just with like septic tanks, but the impact of their development. You know, when they put in new construction, that has an impact on our environment, that impacts the lagoon, that impacts our water flows and puts added strain on our infrastructure. So when developers come into the area, we have to make sure that they're paying for their fair share of the impact on our development, on our community.
Commissioner Tabaya.
Can you repeat the question? I apologize.
Sure, I'm going to repeat the full question. Do you support new developments in Brevard County that have conventional septic systems, or do you think there should be a requirement for all new developments to have upgraded septic systems or sewer line hookups?
I think we need to look to the science, and the science has pointed out that development within a certain a distance, I think it's 50 meters of a body of water, there is a substantial and traceable amount of phosphorus and nitrogen that get into the water supply, and we need to mandate that those homes are either hooked up on sewer or have the more advanced anaerobic treatment. But the further we get away, yards and miles away from bodies of water, a more conventional system is probably the right way to go. Because when we look for new construction for low-income housing, an anaerobic system may be 2 to 3 times more, and we start pricing people out of the house and the home environment. And the way to wealth, as we know, or one of the ways, is real estate. And while it may sound great, it's not a practical resource, and this takes low-income people and does not give them a way to move up in the socioeconomic scale.
Thank you. Mayor Meehan.
Yes, ma'am. As far as new development, if there's any way we can connect to the sewer, that would be great. But there are some areas in South Brevard County that cannot connect to the sewer. It would be too expensive. But if they could upgrade their septic tank to new generation, I understand septic tanks, that would be great.
Okay. So still on the topic of the environment, local elected officials, especially here in Florida, are always caught in between the interests of developers and the preservation of our natural habitat and small town feel. When is it appropriate for local governments to regulate growth, and when is it not appropriate? And Commissioner Tabaya, you're going first.
We got to remember that growth triggers impact fees, not only transportation impact fees that brings more money to our roads, but also educational impact fees that funds our public school system. So we need to make sure that this growth is smart. And this is why we have comprehensive plans that puts in place where individuals can build and how much must be kept as wetlands and what are not developable. It is very important that we preserve the environment, but also give an opportunity for businesses to locate in this area because we have affordable housing.
Thank you. Mayor Meehan.
Yes, I also believe in smart growth, and also I support the people's property rights as well. So there is that fine line. But when you have a comprehensive plan that tells you what kind of growth that within that plan, I would definitely look into that. But I still believe in making sure our environment is good and keep in mind of our property rights.
Thank you. And again, the question is on the topic of growth and when county commissioners should impose regulations and when they shouldn't do that. And Mr. Patel, you're going next.
So I don't believe it's the commission's job to create growth, but its job is to manage it effectively. So I support smart, sustainable growth. We have to make planning and zoning decisions that minimize the impact of development, ensure that we have affordable housing, affordable and public transportation, expand adoption of solar and renewable energy, increase walkability, and preserve green spaces. This is going to be a tenuous time for Florida when we talk about growth. We've had hundreds of thousands of new residents each year come into Florida. After the aftermath of what we're seeing with this pandemic, where we're at the global epicenter of poor policymaking, it might be a challenge to see, will residents come to Florida, watching how Florida's handled this crisis. And is the absence of having state taxes enough to bring folks who are willing to tolerate the recklessness that they've seen from our leaders at the state level? So it's all about managing growth. It's not our job to create it.
Thank you. And to sort of follow up on that, a few months ago, I believe there was a group of developers pushing the county commissioner to change some of the wetland regulations. I wanted to hear, what are your thoughts about that? And, how would you approach this as a commissioner? I know, Commissioner Tabay, that you were on the commission when this happened, and feel free to speak about that. But I want to hear from the other two candidates, your views on this topic of wetlands and how we should preserve them and when we should allow development. Mayor Meehan, you're going first.
Okay. Well, I would definitely try to work with the EELS program and see if there's a way that that could be purchased through that program. I don't know too much about that, that it went in front of the county commission, so I don't know the whole story, so I would have to get more information.
Sure. Mr. Patel, you're going next.
So with regards to wetlands or environmentally endangered lands, they're vital resources in our community. They're places for recreation, for education, for conservation. And we've got to protect them. I can't tell you how many times I've been to the Enchanted Forest or to Turkey Creek. These are places that we have to preserve in our community. As we're looking at the impacts of climate change and as folks start to move more inland, where our coastal community gets more inundated, we'll have less land as well. So we're going to see population density where growth occurs as well. So we need to make sure that we preserve wild Florida, that these green spaces are still here, not just for us, but for future generations to enjoy as well. And so in terms of development, it would have to be a significant return on investment to the county for me to even consider that. That the citizens here tax themselves to procure that environmentally endangered land. So I believe in the will of the people, and let's make sure we protect the EELS program.
Commissioner Tabaya?
Thank you. As far as wetlands go, there's no real definition of wetlands. You may buy a 20-acre piece of property and have 3 acres of that 20 acres be deemed wetland. You could go develop it 5 years later, and all of a sudden 8 acres is wetland. And it may not be just in one section. It may be randomly spread over. So this is why we're looking at consolidating that on a piece of property, as well as it's called land banking. So what you do is you may impact part of that wetland. If you impact a tenth of a credit or a full credit, then you can buy wetland space somewhere else. This would give someone the ability to build on their property, because I think private property rights are extremely important and something that we need to look out for as a county commission.
Thank you. So now let's move on to the topic of taxes. As you know, in 2016, Brevard County voters approved a half-cent sales tax to restore the Indian River Lagoon. In some communities, for example, across the state, we have seen gas taxes to fund road construction and improvements. My question to you candidates is, when are tax increases or new taxes appropriate? And the first one to answer that question is Mr. Patel.
So I don't know if most folks understand this, but the county operates, they've got a charter cap. That means is they're prevented from doing tax increases. It doesn't matter what's going on within the community. On top of that, we have a pandemic going on right now that is going to substantially hinder how much revenue that the commission gets. So year after year, what we see is the county touting these tax cuts while services go by the wayside. We see our infrastructure crumbling, whether it be our roads, our wastewater, our sewer systems. And so at some point, we have to come to a reckoning to say, okay, they've kicked this can down the road long enough. How are we actually going to fix what needs to be fixed? And sometimes that has to be through taxes. We taxed ourselves because we knew we had the lagoon. This is in 2016, and we needed some serious funding to take care of that issue. I wish the commission had not shirked their responsibility and focused on infrastructure all along, but it may come to citizens saying, look, we need to tax ourselves a half cent to fix our infrastructure. A gas tax might be appropriate as well, but we have to evaluate everything. What are our priorities and how are we going to pay for them?
Thank you. Commissioner Tabaya?
That's a one-word answer. Taxes, increased taxes are never appropriate. Now, wish Mr. Patel had been correct and the county commission had decreased taxes, but that isn't the case. Unfortunately, on a couple situations, this Republican commission had actually decided to increase taxes or bust the charter cap. What is not generally understood is we get more money each and every year. We have a CPI. New construction comes outside of the tax cap or the tax increase. So every year we'll get $5 or $6 million more than we did the year previous in just the general fund. We need to prioritize this money. And when we hand out money to things like dinosaur museums and period correct lighthouse furniture to the tune of $500,000 and offer $5 million in AstroTurf, we're not prioritizing public safety. We're not prioritizing infrastructure. And I voted against both those. I just wish that, or all three of those, I just wish the rest of the commission would have agreed. But to answer your question, new taxes and higher taxes are never appropriate.
Thank you. And the question again is when are new taxes appropriate or not? And Mayor Meehan, you're going next.
All right, thank you. So for me, it's working within the budget and prioritizing. So no, I don't see where a new tax would be efficient.
That's it? Anything else?
That's
Okay.
it.
All right. All right. So still on the topic of taxes. Last year, the county commission voted 4-1 to exceed a voter-approved tax cap in the 2019-2020 budget to fund what Brevard County Sheriff Wayne Ivey described as critical needs in his agency. Among those needs were deputy shortages and costs related to school security after the Parkland shooting. That resulted in just above a $4 increase per year for the average taxpayer. Commissioner Tabaya, please explain why you voted against that. And Mayor Meehan and Mr. Patel, please explain how you would have voted were you on the commission back then. And the first one to go is Commissioner Tamayo.
Thank you. To be clear, you said it was 4-1. I was the one that voted against it. I made a promise when I knocked on doors this last election that I would not raise anyone's taxes, and this was a charter cap tax increase. I couldn't support it. The problem was we did not prioritize. Again, we go back to the $5 million that was spent on AstroTurf. I can shell the money out in such a way that the sheriff wouldn't have needed to come to the county commission and ask for that higher amount. We could have funded it out of the general fund. While the sheriff and I don't agree on everything, I'm very proud to have his support on this. And I'm here to tell you, if you haven't already read in your paper, that the sheriff brought a sub-object level budget for the first time to the county commission. Not only that, he is not asking for a tax increase or to bust the budget cap. So we're all working together to be within our means. But should anyone ask for a budget cap in the future to increase taxes or to bust the charter cap, whether the sheriff or anyone else, they will get a resounding no.
Thank you. Mayor?
Yes. As far as from what I understand on the latest budget that came out, he's asking for a 0.26 increase, which would be $363,331 for his budget. And if that's going to improve the sheriff's department, I'm in agreement with that.
Thank you, Mr. Patel. And again, the question for those who are just joining us is a vote that the commission took last year regarding the 2019-2020 vote that busted a voter-approved tax cap. Would you have voted yes or no?
It's funny that John mentioned that the sheriff has finally brought a sub-object budget to the commission, because that budget has been shrouded in secrecy for so long. You know, when I look at the sheriff's budget, it's 10% of the entire what the commission has, over $130 million. And when I look at, because we haven't had a chance to look at that budget, but I know he's got a social media presence. He does programs like Wheel of Fugitive or Fishing for Justice. If he really had some critical needs, I think that those programs are suspect at best, and they could have funded some of what he needed. Look, I need to look at everything on a case-by-case basis, but if I'm going off of the information that we had at that time, because I was at that commission meeting, I was sitting in the audience, I would have voted against it. There's just far too much opacity, and we need transparency. There's no public trust there. And so this applies not to just the sheriff, but any constitutional office that comes in for increased funding. We need to see what that's going towards and make sure that it makes sense to do it.
Thank you. And still speaking about Sheriff Ivey, he has requested that the county transfer, or proposed that the county transfer emergency service management to the sheriff's office. I would like to know your thoughts about the proposal. Have you made up your mind on whether that should happen or not? And give us a feel. What are your thoughts on that? And Mayor Meehan, you're going first.
Yes, I believe it should stay with the county in the Department of EOC. And if Sheriff Ivey wants to get some input, that would be great. But I think it still needs to be under Brevard County.
Can you explain just a little bit why?
Because I think it's been successful as far as the emergency, the EOC, and we depend on that information. And to me, it would be so much better if it's under the direction of Brevard County.
Mr. Patel?
So I'm strongly opposed to any proposal that would bring the EOC under the umbrella of the sheriff's office. We actually have the most active EOC in the state of Florida because of our frequent rocket launches and hurricane season. Now add to that a pandemic, and the critical role of the EOC in the community becomes very clear. Placing the EOC under the sheriff's office doesn't actually make much sense. They're a law enforcement agency, and most of the emergencies that we have don't require law enforcement to address them. So depending on the type of disaster, you might require fire and rescue, you might require social workers. If you only have a hammer in your toolbox, that's what you're gonna use. So I want to make sure that the EOC has a full toolkit to address any of the type of disasters that they're going to be dealing with. And frankly, back to my last statement, I'm concerned about the sheriff's lack of transparency and his issues with Florida Today. So if he has an issue where a large number of constituents still get their news from Florida Today, but he's got beef with them and that information is not coming out in a disaster, we just can't afford to play games with public health and safety.
Thank you. Commissioner Tobias?
The Emergency Operations Center is covered under two chapters of state statute, 125 and 252. 125 is the day-to-day operations. There are 7 or 8 employees, and the sheriff is currently looking at whether or not he can do that more effectively, more efficiently, and for less money. The one that is more critical is Chapter 252. That's when there's a hurricane, a rocket launch, or a pandemic. And the sheriff is currently putting together a plan to find out if he has the manpower, if he has the infrastructure, and if he has the expertise in order to do that. I look forward to evaluating the plan that he puts before the county commission, looking at what he brings, what issues may arise because of it, and then making a determination based on the data presented. So 125 is a simple solution. However, the 252 or the larger emergency one definitely raises some issues. Whether or not we would be ceding authority from the policy group over to the sheriff's office is a question that he needs more time to answer.
Thank you. And now I believe this is going to be my last question, and I think it's going to be a fun question. I actually want you to choose one of your opponents and ask them a question. And that person will have, this time, only 45 seconds to answer because we have to wrap up. Mr. Patel, who would you ask your question to, and what is the question?
Ooh, that's a good one. I got to ask John a question. So, John, your ideology, when you go back home for Thanksgiving and family gatherings, do you share that sentiment with the rest of your family, or are you the black sheep in the family?
You know what? My brother is a registered Republican, and on fiscal issues, many times he's just as, if not more, conservative. But on many of the social issues, him and his wife are extremely liberal and see many of the world the way that you do. And you know what? It doesn't matter. We have a great time. He's got some wonderful kids and a super wife, and we get along extremely, extremely well. I'm probably a black sheep for other reasons, but my political philosophy isn't one of them.
Thank you, Commissioner Tobias. Now, this is your chance to ask one of your opponents a question.
Thank you. And this one definitely goes to Sanjay. I am really disappointed in this because before you decided to run for office, we had decided to have dinner together, and my sister-in-law and my brother were extremely excited about it. So I'm going to ask you during this campaign, no matter how it turns out, my sister-in-law, Colleen, keeps on asking me, can we do it? And if so, what restaurant works for you?
John, I would love to take you up on that. I don't know what happened, actually. I think I took a job with a campaign, and then we got the pandemic, but I would be honored to sit with you. The great thing about you is that our politics are like oil and water, but there's a level of mutual respect where we can talk about the issues and different angles about addressing them. But I would love to break some bread with you and go out to a meal. Thanks for the offer.
I think this is my best question so far. Mayor Meehan, who do you choose to ask the question to, and what is your question?
All right, Mr. Patel, what is your favorite restaurant?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Mr. Patel, what is your favorite restaurant?
So my favorite restaurant rotates, but locally it's Chez Kwan's, which is in Melbourne. It's a local small business, some of the best Thai food in the area, and I love them, and they're great. They're family. So if you haven't tried them, John, Happy, you got to go try them. They're
great. I know they try to put a mural on their wall without a permit, but eventually we worked it out with them. But yeah, they're good.
I'm not gonna lie, I was expecting something completely different when I asked this question. I am just so happy and surprised that you actually were so nice to each other. This is great. But now it's time to move on to our closing statements. And this time I'm going to ask you to stick to 1 minute so we can wrap up and make sure everybody gets home. I mean, you're obviously already home. But Commissioner Tabaya, you have 1 minute to give us your closing statement.
Sure. I want to thank the Florida Today. I don't think I've ever said this, the League of Women Voters, and certainly my two opponents in this. This has generally been an extremely positive campaign. And no matter what the outcome is, I hope that we can stay together because we all offer different perspectives that maybe can solve the myriad of issues that are out there that affect the citizens of Brevard County. Again, I appreciate everyone here, my sister-in-law and my brother, for using them as analogies, and most importantly, Ellie, Ivan, Nora, and May, love you very much.
Mayor Meehan.
Thank you. I want to first of all thank my husband. He's been very supportive, and also my little dog Sally Sue and Miss Kitty, being home a lot. And I want to say thank you to everyone that's on the panel. That was good. We're all very respectful. We all want what's best in Brevard County. So, and for those, I need your support and vote on August 18th. Thank you.
Mr. Patel.
Thanks, Isadora, Florida Today, the League of Women Voters, and Eastern Florida State College for hosting this forum tonight. Our county is only ever going to meet its potential with an active and informed electorate. So thank you for your part in making that happen. I also want to thank my two opponents who've been in office for a long, long time. My candidacy represents real change. I think we need to have that going forward for this county. It's time to restore balance to a commission that has for far too long put politics in front of what really works for the people. If you believe that the commission needs someone that's going to bring civility, common sense, courage, and decency, I hope to earn your vote on November 3rd. And check me out at votesanjaypatel.com. Thanks so much.
Thank you all, the candidates, for being with us tonight. I appreciate you taking the time to do this. Again, we apologize for Mayor Meehan had some technical issues with her camera. That's why you couldn't see her, but we're happy that she was still able to join us and we were able to hear her voice very clearly. I want to remind the voters that the primary election is on August 18th, and Mayor Meehan and Commissioner Tabaya will be on the Republican ballot. The winner will face Democrat Sanjay Patel. Again, thank you for joining us, and make sure you vote on August 18th.
Yeah, thank you, Isadora, and thank you, Florida Today.
Thank you.